Aloha family, Spencer-Mack here. Stoked to share once again with you guys. This topic is all about how to increase your influence over creation. There's a profound truth about who you are at the very center of your essence. Now, you either know that or you're yet to discover it. But ultimately, you are the one. As egotistical as that may sound, it's beyond the ego. It's beyond comprehension of the logical mind. The infinity of possible forms you could take on, of possible life forms, are all you simultaneously. Life is God experiencing itself. Now, I know this sounds extremely far out to most people. Some people know exactly what I'm talking about. But this brings up the question, were you to believe such a thing was true, then why is creation so chaotic? Ultimately, I believe it's because we've gotten amnesia. We've placed ourselves in such a trial, such a challenging experience, because ultimately that's where you get the bliss. That's where you get the supreme joy. You never go and see a movie that everything was just perfect all the time. They lived in paradise, the end, forever. You'd fall asleep at that movie. You want some kind of a challenge. You want some kind of a struggle. It's that resistance that lets us feel. We need something to push up against in order to actually feel ourselves, to experience ourselves. So in my perception and my belief, this is the greatest story ever told. This is your story. This is the story of your awakening, of your realization. Now, certainly, we would love to accelerate our return to knowing, to realization, to unity as fast as possible. Even though ultimately we'll realize even this time is an illusion and all happened in the blink of an eye. All happened in a passing thought in the mind of God. But there are insights, there are truths, there are practices that can accelerate our path to our reawakening, to our realization, to our empowerment. I'd love to share some of the ones that I find are most valuable to me. These are insights I've had repeatedly over the years, and it's taken me more time than I would like to admit to get them organized enough to have them become integrated parts of my life, because it takes practice. It's like riding a bike. Gaining control over the mind, it's like riding a bike, but the control is so much more subtle. It's like, you remember those old Nintendo gloves that you could control just by moving your fingers? Imagine that, but instead of 10 fingers, you have 10 million nerves. And through the engagement or the tension or the relaxation of these nerves, you orchestrate your experience. Developing self-awareness, sensitivity to your physical body, awareness of your breath and your thoughts are vital. Something that seems so mundane as just a passing thought in your mind is like throwing a rock into the infinite ocean of God. The tiniest little breeze, as they call it, the butterfly effect, can cause a tornado halfway around the world. These things that start out so small, close to our core, with these tiny little tensions and feelings, emanate into huge experiences and influences in the outer world. So in order to resolve these difficult, challenging scenarios that we're experiencing in our external world, we need to become extremely in tune with the inside, that most subtle part of ourselves, the very core where all of our actions are emanating from. Now, ultimately, there's no one practice. And even above that, I believe ultimately it's going to take grace. There are those yogis who just become enlightened by chance. And there are those yogis who put in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You're trying too hard. It's an allowance. When you really experience the power that you are, it happens without any effort. You're listening and hearing the words you're speaking, and realizing the truth in them at the same time. You're not having to hold on to some information and express it as a knowledge, as this is my knowledge. You're listening and allowing and witnessing the unfolding of reality. When you're in this peak state, when you're embodying Aloha, or as I like to call it, the holy Stoke, life just flows effortlessly. It's about letting go, but maintaining engagement, maintaining contact with that deepest part of yourself. One of the most profound things about this state is that you're perpetually doing what you want to do. Life is the continuing unfoldment of your desires. As selfish as that sounds, it's not your ego's desires, it's your highest self. It's the desires of God. Now, when our little ego has selfish desires, and I want this, or I want that, or I have jealousy, or I have anxiety, or I have fear, I'm trying to grasp. I create tension, and this creates a disturbance in the flow of energy coming out of the source. That source distorts the image around you and causes what we like to call bad things, not good. What is good is the natural expression, the uninhibited truth of your feelings, of yourself, of your creation. It's such a sensitive game. We have to cultivate such a high degree of sensitivity to ourselves. And the power that comes with it is so enthralling, so amazing. You automatically want to grab onto it. How can I keep that? I was there for a minute. I experienced the holy flow. The power was infinite. I could do whatever I wanted to do, and my entire environment fell in line. And then the ego wants to grasp it, and that tension is like trying to grab onto water. It then stops the flow, it misshapes the expression, and you end up with trauma, with problems, with pain again. So I go back again and again to the image of the Taoist monk, of the old immortal, with his cane, practicing his Tai Chi. The ego wants to get a hold of things and control them. And the elder, the master, they understand, as they say, the yin overcomes the yang, the soft overcomes the hard. I practiced a style of hard kung fu for years. I developed a lot of strength and yang power. I loved to work on conditioning, making the bones hard. And then I started to train Tai Chi with this old Russian man, 65 years old, maybe 8 inches shorter than me. And we would play push hands. It's where you put your feet square to each other, hand on the shoulder, hand on the arm, and you see who can get the other person to move their foot. Out of over 100 times of getting to spar with this man, I never moved him once. It frustrated the shit out of my ego. But he was so relaxed, so connected with the tension in his body and the tension in my body that he could redirect my energy effortlessly. My friend was a 300-pound linebacker for the college. I never saw him move him either. I saw him throw this guy across the room. It was profound. And ultimately, that's where the power is, in that sensitivity, in getting in touch with the yin, the internal, the soft. It's so subtle, but it's really the origin of all of these things that we perceive outside of ourselves. So how do we get in touch with that? Meditation. Cultivating self-awareness through practices like sitting meditation. Qigong, which is the connection of the breath and the movement and the visualization all together. Breath work. It's the subtleties of our breath influence the subtleties of our mind and vice versa. You can get an image of the state of your mind by reflecting on what your breath is doing right now. And you can influence your mind by putting your breath into a certain state. Ultimately, it is present moment awareness. It's not holding on to something in the future, an idea that you need. It's not holding on to something in the past, your identity, your memories. It's allowing yourself to express true to this moment right here and right now. You don't have to know where you're going to go tomorrow. And when you can really be devoted and fully involved in this moment, each step unfolds perfectly. in such a beautiful way, it must be planned. And ultimately it is. It's your allowing, it's your faith in the plan, in God, in your higher self, that must happen to allow this dream to come through, uninhibited, without your fear distorting it. So breath work, meditation, qigong, cleansing your body, nutrifying your body, taking the steps to get the toxins out of your environment. These things not only clog up your organs, but your sensory systems as well. They make your mind cloudy. They dull your vision. You can't see clearly. How are you supposed to navigate? Cleaning up your environment, taking care of yourself through proper nutrition, proper exercise, doing yoga to keep yourself open and fluid. And I love the practice of mantra as well. Now, as I call this state that we're speaking about the holy Stoke, you could call it the holy flow, you could call it Aloha, you could call it enlightenment, you could call it realization. For me, the holy Stoke, I have achieved it about 3 times in my life. 2 times I was on psychedelics. 1 time I did it purely through my own meditation. And in that meditation, I was focusing on myself in the mirror while I was training some qigong and reiterating those ideals, dictating those ideals to myself in my mind. How would you define your ideal self? How do you relate and interact in your environment? If you had just reached and obtained a perfect state, I would be fully relaxed. I would be living in a state of faith. I would be allowing my spontaneous urges to occur as they please, without any hesitation. I would have such a deep faith, knowing that it's all going to unfold perfectly. I understand that tension is the enemy, and by the continuous release of any tensions I find in my body, I'm continuously expanding into greater and greater degrees of joy and self-expression and expansion. It's a perpetual, evolving, expanding, growing state of joy, state of allowing, state of release. And it's something that can be practiced. Now, I read this meme the other day that said, we need to stop being influenced by the frequencies of our environment and start to project or transmit our own frequencies. Now, you could view the environment as kind of a reflection of your subconscious. Your body, the space around you, is a result of all of your past thoughts and decisions, all stacked up on top of each other, one after the next. Now, if you were to just watch the show, you're getting a feedback loop where you're looking at what you've already done. You're just going to keep repeating the same old thoughts, the same ideas, the same actions, and guess what? You're going to end up in the same place. So if you want something new, you really have to take the time to reflect on yourself and spend more time concentrating on those characteristics, those habits, those ideals and personality traits that you want to embody. Define them. Define your ideal self. Define your vision of your ideal life. Define your story of your realization. Otherwise, if you're just sitting there listening, consuming everything from social media, watching, reflecting on how the environment's just being destroyed, that story is going to continue until you step up and tell a new one. Now, if you really want to drive these ideas into your mind, get clear on them. Write every day. Establish a practice that you continuously, repetitively recall these ideal states, these ideal perceptions. And if you want to bring it to the next level, record it. Record your voice and listen to it every day. Keep capturing new ideal perceptions about your ideal character, how you relate with things. Tell yourself a new story. And if you hear it enough, you're going to believe it. That's how it works. That same tool is what's being used against you through all of the social media, through the media in general. Repeating the same message over and over again, you start to believe it's true. Now, what happens if you were to generate the message of truth yourself that felt good to you, that felt righteous? As they said in the Bible when God was creating the world, and it was good. What is good? We know what good is. It's a feeling of truth that we have. It brings harm to none. It's a benefit to all. We don't need a government were we to all govern ourselves. And we only get this control, government, mind control, control of the mind, through practice, through reflection on ourselves, through turning that view back inside and witnessing the show that's going on. This is where it's all generating from. Now, if we can look back to the source, get back in touch with the source, we can start writing a different story. And once you get clarity on the story you want, start to record it. If you really want to drive it in, start to teach it. You may retain 10, 15% of something you read or write, but you'll retain 90, 95% of something that you teach and lecture. If you want it to become a part of you, when you understand something valuable, teach it, share it, record it, listen to it again and again, and it will integrate into your character. You can rewrite your script. Patience, practice, persistence every day. Get in a rhythm. Write yourself a plan, like you would write a business plan. You need to know your goals, your visions, your ethics, the step-by-step process that you're going to go through. Define this for yourself, because until then, you're just wandering blindly. How do you ever get where you want to go if you're just walking around cross-eyed? Get the vision straight. In Kundalini Yoga, they don't start with the first chakra, they start with the third eye. You open your vision so that you can navigate through the chakra systems. Then you go up the channel from one into the next. But until you can see, you're not going to solve any problems. So getting clarity by looking within, as crazy as that sounds. Getting clarity by spending ample time with yourself. Imagine if you spend all of the time you spend on social media and just consuming random information, focusing on yourself, reflecting on your story. Who is this person that's been experiencing all of this? What do they really want? What is their desire? How could they obtain that? Once we turn that energy back in, it starts to grow exponentially. We start to resonate with ourselves, with our truths, and it raises our energy level. And then we can cultivate something that we can then share. And then we emit our frequencies out into the environment and affect our reality. And this truth starts to show throughout the world. So, to walk my own talk, this is my first day. For at least the next 2 weeks, I'm going to put myself on a half moon pattern here. It's the first day of the new moon now. For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to make a video every day. Just sharing insight that I find is beneficial to my life. What increases the quality of my life? What do I think has gotten me to where I am? Because I'm very grateful for where I am. And by teaching this, by reiterating it, I'm bringing my mind back to the holy Stoke, back to those things that I love, my true nature. I get practice again and again of getting in the state of expressing those things that I love. So that's my practice. And I figure 2 weeks will be long enough for me to get a good reflection and see how it actually affects my life. Ideally, I'd probably be continuing this for the rest of my life, finding one media or the next to share it through. So, if this is helpful to you guys, I would love to hear your reflections. Do you have similar practice? Do you completely disagree with my perception? I love hearing it all. I love the conversation. Your challenge to my perception is a benefit to me. It's a trial. It makes me question myself if I'm not right. And then I'll dive deeper into my own self-reflection. If I have a false belief, it's going to lead me into a bad place. So any kind of reflection, even if it's, hey bro, totally disagree, I'm totally into sitting there and talking through it, and we can reflect on it together. So let's keep the conversation going. And as with the Holy Stoke, keep your eye on the Most High. What are your ideals? Even if they're just single words: peaceful, prosperous, joyful, playful, hilarious, smiling, easy, loving, abundant, faithful. Do you feel how those words make you feel? Those things all embody entire ideas. It's the power of the word to direct the mind and the energy of your imagination to recreate your experience. We have to master the word. We have to become spell crafters and spell things appropriately and define things the way that we want them defined. And if we don't know, then we ask questions. So let's cultivate the holy Stoke, my friends. Let's light that flame and keep it going with perpetual practice. Let us remember, let us set reminders in our environment. Our phone has an alarm on it. We listen to an audio every day. We have notes on the wall. We have symbols all around our home. Our life, our yard, our farm becomes a symbol of this devotion to the Holy Stoke, to enlightenment, to the Aloha, to the love. All right. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear it. If you're not subscribed, jump on. Let's team up. Let's light the flame. Let's let it spread. Obviously, the story that's playing out right now is less than ideal. And if we want to get control of it and change it, we got to work together. We got to team up. We got to build a new fire of love, of intelligence, of wisdom, where we are connected with nature and realize how we can live full circle sustainably. Because if your life isn't sustainable, you're suicidal. If the way that we're living is not sustainable, it means we are going to die. You may not care about yourself, but how about your grandchildren? How about their children? And if you don't care about that, then you're nihilistic. And you know you're not contributing anything here. And you know that's not fulfilling, that's only painful. So if you know that you can change that, it's time to get a grip of your power, of your mind, of your word, and redirect your character and tell a story of rebirth, of realization, of elevation, of the turning of the tides into the birth of the golden age, out of the depths of insanity, which is certainly what it looks like we're in right now. So let's spend more time focusing on the source of this, focusing on the perceiver, and master our ability to perceive and to articulate our desires. Master our ability to be sensitive to how we feel, and so that we know when we're acting in truth, in righteousness, when we are being good. To get in touch with that navigation system, our feeling body, the part of us that knows. And to get in touch with the one, with the faith, and allow the creation to unfold perfectly without inhibition, without fear, having trust in the truth. Awesome, guys. Always a pleasure. Stoked to be back. I'll be seeing y'all for the next couple weeks. If you got ideas or topics you want me to touch in on, I'd love to hear them. It's always a big support. And as always, see you guys next time. Lots of love. Peace.